The truth that broke my family. A couple of weeks ago, my world collapsed. I found out my wife had cheated on me 6 years ago, something she swore could never happen. And yet it did. It wasn't even her who told me, it was her sister. I had gone to visit her after she gave birth to check in, just a casual visit to see how she was doing. Somewhere in the conversation, she broke down and confessed, 6 years ago, my wife had gotten drunk and slept with her best friend. Her sister said she had been carrying the guilt all these years, watching me love and raise a child that wasn't mine, knowing I had no idea. She said she just couldn't hold it in anymore. At that moment, my entire body went cold. My son was right there with me, clueless, playing with his toys. My mind was racing, but I forced myself to act normal. The second we left, I drove straight to a clinic and took a paternity test. I already knew the truth. I think a part of me always did. But when the results came back a week later, confirming that he wasn't mine, it still felt like a dagger through my chest. Something inside me shifted. When I looked at him, I no longer saw my son. I saw a stranger, someone else's child, someone else's mistake. That night, after he had gone to bed, I confronted my wife. I didn't scream, I didn't curse. I just held up the papers and asked her one question. Why? Her first reaction wasn't guilt or remorse, it was panic. She demanded to know who had told me. I simply said, "That's none of your concern." She must have figured it out quickly, but I didn't care. That wasn't my problem anymore. Then I told her I wanted a divorce. She broke down, swearing up and down that it was a one-time mistake, that she had been faithful every second since, that she never meant to hurt me. She blamed the alcohol, as if that would make it better. I didn't believe a word. I refused to let her rewrite the past. Then came the threats. She said she would demand full custody. I almost laughed. Full custody of what? I told her she could have him. I wanted nothing to do with something that was never mine to begin with. She could keep the child. I would keep the dogs. That broke her. She pleaded with me, saying I was his father, that biology didn't change that I had raised him, loved him, that he saw me as his dad. That's when I lost it. I had been holding everything in, every ounce of pain, every betrayal, every lie, and I finally exploded. "Take your bastard and get out." I had never yelled at her before. I think that's what shocked her the most. She grabbed a bag, scooped up the half-asleep kid, and left. She went to her parents' house that night and hasn't called me since. The house feels emptier now. It's mine. I own it, a gift from my parents, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. My father told me I did the right thing, that I shouldn't be raising another man's child. I agree with him. But the pain doesn't go away just because I know I made the right choice. My younger brother told me to write this all down to get it out of my system. So here I am, and I see a therapist 3 times a week. She told me I've already taken the first step, cutting out the thing that caused me pain. But the hardest part is accepting that my family no longer exists. As for my sister-in-law, she claims she told me out of guilt, that seeing me happy with my son all these years while knowing the truth was eating her alive. Maybe she's telling the truth. Maybe she's just trying to clear her conscience. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. Right now, all I feel is hatred for my wife and a twisted mix of pain and resentment toward the child. It's not his fault, I know that. But that doesn't change the fact that I can't be his father anymore. The divorce is in motion. Our finances and properties are separate. If she dares to ask for child support, my lawyer says the DNA test is more than enough to shut it down. My therapist advised me not to see them again, to focus on myself, to heal. The child is no longer my problem, and the sooner I accept that, the better. I accidentally shit the bed in front of my boyfriend. I had just gotten in a relationship with my new sweet boyfriend. A little info about me. I have a chronic stomach wound which pops up whenever I'm really stressed. The relationship was very new, so we were both still quite shy. We had just gotten comfortable enough farting in front of each other, though, and often made a joke out of it. About a month into our relationship, I had to go to the hospital with my stomach wound. I was there for a week, and he was super supportive the whole time. When I finally got home from the hospital, my body was so weak, I wasn't allowed to drink or eat anything the whole week because of the tests they had to make. Therefore, my body had pretty much shut down, nothing had come in, so nothing came out. I got prescribed some laxatives that I took. Never having taken them before, I didn't know what to expect, but it definitely wasn't this. We were laying in bed, I was on my side looking at my phone, and he was half sitting up in bed playing RuneScape on his laptop in front of me. I could feel a fart coming, so I looked up into his eyes with a smirk face expression and said, "I'm shitting." I meant to say I'm farting, but the words came out wrong, and so did something else. The moment I said it, I let it all out, still with a smirk face expression looking him right in the eyes. You could hear a wet, bubbly sound, and I instantly knew what had happened. My smile faded and my face turned to horror. My hand flew down to stop the flow, but it was too late. Boyfriend jumped up and ran to the toilet to bring me paper. He helped me clean up while just laughing hysterically. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't even say anything. And then later, when we sat and talked, he told me that it was the most intimidating thing he had ever experienced. The way I looked right into his eyes, he had never felt so dominated in his life. Like a monkey shitting in its hand and throwing it. Needless to say, we got very quickly comfortable with intimate things like that after this. Even though we've broken up since then and it's been a few years, I'm to this day still just as embarrassed. 4 days ago, my coworker, who's also my friend, fell down the stairs and died in front of me. 4 days ago, I was walking with a coworker on a break just to stretch our legs. We work in an office setting, so like to get up every once in a while and get some fresh air. We walk in a half circle around the building. In the back, there are stairs that we like to go down and then back up on our way back for exercise. It's 2 sets of 15 concrete steps. It was a beautiful sunny day with blue skies. Near the top of the stairs, we were in mid-conversation while heading down, and all of a sudden I hear him go, "Oh God," and trip and fall somehow. He rolled down and landed at the bottom in a heap, face first in the concrete. I just stared for a few seconds because it was so sudden. I ran to the bottom while asking if he's okay, but he didn't move or respond. I got close and realized there was blood coming from his head, and face and his arms and legs were seized up and stiff when I tried to roll him over. I freaked out but managed to call 911 while also texting another coworker friend of mine to come outside the office because our friend fell. 911 told me to roll him over and do CPR while they came, which I did. The ambulance got there about 7 minutes after I called and took him to the hospital, but I'm 99% sure he was already dead when I was doing CPR. I feel really weird about it, like sad, but also just strange. It's hard to put into words. It doesn't seem real. I will get flashes where I realize what happened and feel an intense tightness in my chest, and the severity of it hits me. I keep imagining him laying at the bottom of the stairs face down, and also his torn-up face when I was giving him CPR when he was already dead. It's also just really sad because he was one of my best friends at work. I've barely slept since Tuesday and was full of adrenaline for a full day after it happened. He was single with no kids or anything. Only has a brother and father who live in other states. And I don't really know why I'm writing all this, but I just feel really strange and am wondering if anyone ever experienced something like this. I just found out why my wedding started late, and I love my husband more because of it. My husband, John Bucky, and I just returned from our week-long honeymoon 2 weeks ago. We call my husband Bucky because he resembles the character from the MCU movies. My Bucky is a bit more yummy. Yesterday was the first time we had dinner with his family since the wedding. My sister-in-law is my favorite person besides my husband, which is why she was my maid of honor. She took me aside and told me what happened behind the scenes at my wedding. A bit of background first. My mother-in-law never liked me and she didn't hide it from me, though she did hide it from her son. This started from the moment we began dating. She would play nice in front of him but make nasty comments as soon as he was out of sight. At first, I didn't say anything to Bucky, hoping that in time his mother would warm up to me, but it never stopped. Eventually, I had enough and started telling Bucky. Bucky spoke with his mother, but she claimed I was misunderstanding her. She didn't stop, she just became subtler, saying things that could be interpreted in multiple ways. I don't blame Bucky, he did believe me. But he also believed his mother when she said she meant something else. When Bucky proposed, I thought that would be the end of it, but she only got sneakier. I almost called off the wedding because I couldn't handle it anymore. We had arguments and it was frustrating. Bucky always believed me but didn't believe it was his mother's intent to be hurtful. Somehow we got through it and started planning the wedding. My sister-in-law helped with the wedding planning and preparations, and because my mother-in-law was minimally involved, everything was perfect. From my perspective, everything went as planned on the wedding day, though we started a bit later. Bucky told me it couldn't be avoided because something important came up last minute. I assumed it was work-related, so I didn't ask. But now I've heard from my sister-in-law what actually happened. I was in the bridal suite, so I didn't see or hear any of this. My mother-in-law arrived at the venue wearing white. When Bucky found out, he asked my sister-in-law to bring her to his ready room, along with his other siblings and father. When my mother-in-law walked in and tried to hug him, Bucky stopped her. He asked what she was wearing, and when she dismissed it, he repeated the question differently. Why was she wearing white at his wedding? Why was she trying to hurt his soon-to-be wife? Why was she trying to ruin his wedding day? I think phrasing it as his day rather than my day got to his mother. He reminded her that it was his wedding too. She still tried to dismiss it, saying he was overreacting and it was just a dress. That's when he lost it. He started yelling at his mother, saying that he now realized I wasn't misunderstanding her. She was deliberately being hurtful to me. He yelled that he had been defending her to me all this time, but now it was clear that I was the one who needed defending. He accused his mother of trying to sabotage his relationship. When my father-in-law tried to say something, Bucky shut him down, saying he didn't want to hear it because they had stood by and enabled her behavior. Bucky then told his mother, "Because you're my mother, I'm willing to postpone the wedding by half an hour to give you a chance to change. I don't care if you go home, to a store, or wherever. Just leave now and only come back when you've changed. If you refuse, you will never see me, my wife, or our future children ever again. Do I make myself clear?" The wedding was perfect, and my mother-in-law wore a blue dress. I don't know how to thank this man enough. His birthday is in 3 months, and I'm going to have to plan something extra special. My kids knew about my wife's affair and helped her cover it up. Last week, while my wife was taking a shower, I saw a notification pop up on her phone and went to open it thinking it was one of our daughters confirming what time their girls' dinner was. Instead, I saw an unsaved number saying, "I can't wait to see you," and then kissing emoji. I froze for a second. I clicked on the message and saw a short thread mostly confirming dinner plans for that evening and how they missed each other and once a week just wasn't enough. I knew what I saw. 29 years of marriage down the drain. Hoping to catch her in a lie before she left the house, I texted both our daughters and asked them about girls' dinner. What happened next broke me to my core. Both girls confirmed the dinner and said they were excited. I couldn't believe it. Not proud of what came next. I turned her location sharing on with me in her phone and let her leave. I followed her to a restaurant and lo and behold, neither daughter was there, but instead a man I knew was her boss. I was so heartbroken. Part of me was hoping I was just a paranoid freak and my daughters would be there happy to see me. But no, just my cheating wife and her AP. I took pictures of the two of them holding hands and kissing. I know I should have waited, but I couldn't help myself. I was so angry. As soon as I got in my car, I opened the group chat we had as a family, sent them all the photos, and said, "Glad you're enjoying girls' dinner together." I then turned my phone off and drove to my brother's house and asked to stay the night. I woke up the next morning to over 40 texts and 20 voicemails. My wife went through the cheater's playbook of excuses. I didn't even listen to her voicemails. I was about to respond with, "I will be getting a divorce. I recommend a lawyer." But my brother stopped me. He told me to meet with a bunch of lawyers first and make sure she couldn't use them. Instead, I just sent the group chat a simple message. "I am physically fine, but need time. I will come home when I'm ready." I then muted my phone. I called different lawyers that looked to be the best in town that morning for appointments, met with all of them, and picked the one who looked ready to treat this as scorched earth as possible. Finally, after spending all day with lawyers, I looked through the messages and both my daughters were apologizing. My younger daughter, the daddy's girl of the two, was manic. She had texted me almost 50 times saying she never should have lied and hated it every time. Her boyfriend even reached out asking me to please reach out to her, that he didn't know what was going on but that she was on the verge of a panic attack. Maddie, I love you, but please understand that what you've done has hurt me deeply. I need you to give me space. I sent it and within seconds got a, "Okay, I'm so sorry. I never should have helped. I'll never forgive myself. I love you too." I didn't respond. Alice was different. We always had a good relationship, but she was a mama's girl through and through. She said she was sorry, but that I shouldn't throw away a good marriage because of one mistake. This made me furious. "Alice, this isn't a mistake. This is a betrayal from my whole family. Please don't reach out again until I make first contact." She never responded, but I know she showed it to me STBX because she started saying that I shouldn't take this out on Alice. I never responded. I'll never talk to her again except through lawyers. This all happened 5 days ago. I'm still at my brother's and can't contain my feelings. I cry every morning and most of the day. I oscillate between complete debilitating sadness and all-consuming anger. Losing my wife will be hard enough, but how do I ever look at my children again? How do I even begin to forgive them? Alice is supposed to get married in the fall. I've been paying for almost everything. Now I'm probably not going to go. I don't even know how to move forward. I am completely destroyed. I ruined my husband's Thanksgiving. Jake and I had been married for 6 years, and I thought things were fine. But 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I found out he'd been screwing Megan, his coworker, a wannabe Instagram model with the personality of soggy bread. How did I find out? She left her lipstick in his jacket pocket. When I asked about it, Jake stammered something about a group Halloween party. They weren't playing dress up unless sleazy side piece counts as a costume. I did my homework, dug through his phone when he fell asleep early, and bingo, texts, photos, even videos. Not only was he cheating, but he had been bragging about it to his friends. Stuff like, "She's hotter than Sarah," and "Finally found someone who doesn't nag me." Oh, but it gets worse. He invited her to our Thanksgiving dinner because she doesn't have family nearby. Instead of kicking him out right then, I smiled, kissed his lying face, and said, "Of course, babe, the more, the merrier." Thanksgiving was my Super Bowl now, and I was going all out. I prepped every dish with care, but I had a few secret ingredients to add some spice. Megan was all smiles when she showed up with her dollar store wine, acting like she wasn't sleeping with my husband. I played nice, complimented her dress, which screamed clearance rack, and made sure she got a front row seat to the drama. When everyone sat down for dinner, I kicked things off with a toast. I just want to say how thankful I am for family, for friends, and for clarity. You see, I've recently learned so much about myself and the people I thought I could trust. Jake, Megan. I locked eyes with them. This is really your moment. Cue the awkward silence. Then I pulled out my laptop connected to the TV. Oh yes, I made a PowerPoint with screenshots of their texts, photos of them sneaking around, and a particularly spicy video of Megan doing, well, let's just say something that made Jake's mom scream, "Oh my God!" The table exploded. Jake was yelling, Megan was crying, his parents were mortified, and my mom just sat there sipping her wine like she was watching her favorite soap opera. But I wasn't done. "Oh, and Megan," I said, cutting through the chaos, "I wanted to make sure you felt special today, so I made you something." I went to the kitchen and came back with a casserole dish. Everyone watched as I dramatically removed the foil, revealing a pile of raw turkey guts, the kind they pull out before selling. I call this home wrecker surprise. Enjoy. Then I dumped the entire dish onto Megan's lap. The sound she made was somewhere between a shriek and a gag. She bolted from the table covered in blood and slime. Jake tried to follow her, but I stopped him. "Oh, you're not going anywhere. You see, I packed your stuff. It's in the garage. Also, I called your boss and let him know what a great team player you are. Don't worry, he'll be reviewing those videos personally." His face went pale. He didn't even try to argue, just slunk out like the pathetic loser he is. His mom started crying, his dad apologized to me, and my mom raised her glass and said, "Best Thanksgiving ever." My wife slept with my best friend and now wants to work things out. I have been with my wife for 17 years. We have 3 children together. I was always of the mindset that I wanted monogamy in life, one woman to come home to and that I'd be with for the long haul. I had women try to talk to me over the years, but I never pursued it because I was completely content in my marriage. My wife was my dream girl and I never wanted to hurt her. Over the years, there was 2 occasions where I discovered she was being unfaithful in our marriage. One was an off-and-on-again affair that lasted a few years with her married coworker, and the other was a fling with an ex she dated in high school when she went to visit her family states away. I'm sure there will be people who say I am stupid, which looking back I can't even deny myself, but after a period of separation with both situations, I decided to forgive my wife, as I never wanted to raise my children in a broken home like I had been, and I really felt like we could make it through it. We were young whenever the situation with her coworker happened, so I chalked it up to being young and making dumb choices without thinking. For a while, things were seemingly okay. I never fully trusted her, but I tried my best to push back my doubts because I knew if I decided to forgive her, then I had to do my best to move past it and have a clean slate. It's been 4 years since the second time she'd been unfaithful, and I felt like I made the right decision by letting her have that chance to show she still wanted to be in our marriage. She was a different person for years, and we were happy and even had various things set in motion for the future of our family. However, 2 months ago, my reality was once again shattered by yet another incident, which in my mind was by far worse than the others. I ended up receiving a message from one of my best friend's wives. This friend knew my wife a little. He'd met her in passing, but it wasn't like we all hung out together or anything like that for me to even worry about them. We worked together, so there was sometimes my wife would bring him up multiple times. While we were talking about work, she would bring me coffee to work, and also one for him. I noticed when she did, she'd dress in more revealing clothing than she usually wore, but I never commented on it. She even convinced me that we should buy him a joint birthday present and take him out for drinks on his birthday. Just little things like that, which were obviously weird, but like I said, I didn't think I had anything to worry about with either of them. To my knowledge, he had a good marriage with his wife. He never spoke badly about it, so I didn't think he'd have any interest either. Not to mention we'd actually been friends for a very long time, and I trusted him. I'd make comments in a joking way to my wife about how she took too much of an interest in him, and she laughed it off, saying she just wanted to have another couple to be friends with. She never actually tried to plan anything as far as to hang out with him and his wife as a couple. I agreed they would be good to be friends with, so again, I never thought too much into the overly friendliness of my wife with him. Turns out I was way wrong not to, because I was met with multiple screenshots implying they were engaged in a full-out affair. I wanted to get my proof situated before I ended up confronting my wife because I didn't want her to have the opportunity to manipulate the situation or try to lie her way out of it. So I started to go through call logs, credit statements, etc. because I didn't know how far this actually went past the social media screenshots I saw. When the truth came out, neither of them tried to lie to me about it. I found out they were sneaking off to hotels when she was supposed to be doing doubles at work, and he was supposed to be off with family, and that my friend would leave work to go see her at her job basically every day for a month, and she'd meet up with him on his lunch breaks. They were even planning a weekend at a hotel for the next weekend before the truth came out. I obviously cut ties with my friend, and honestly, I have no idea what to do about my situation with my wife. Their affair ended, and my wife apologized profusely, saying she just got carried away. She said that she'd felt lacking in our marriage, with both of us dedicating so much time to work, other things, and that my friend was there and a nice guy. She said she let herself envy the way he treated his wife and wished she could have had that with me, but was afraid to tell me I wasn't doing enough in our marriage. So in her words, she made a mistake and that she didn't know how to end it once it started. For now, we are living in the same house because realistically, neither of us have the means to leave right now as her family doesn't live here. Plus, the costs of renting in houses here are absurd. And on top of that, we still have our children in our house who are all still in school. She is basically trying to do anything to keep me around, including telling me I can see women casually outside of our marriage. As long as I come home to her, she would never hold it against me as cheating. I told her that's not much of a marriage, and it's certainly not anything I ever set out to have, but she is hell-bent on keeping our family together by any means. She's even brought up how we shouldn't let our kids live in a broken home because of our marital issues. I guess my wife is under the impression that nothing could make me want out of this marriage, and that by offering things like that, she thinks will fix our marriage. I guess in a way that is my fault for letting so much slide in the past. I do love her in some ways, but at this point I think the love is more just from the fact we have kids together, and that I've been with her for nearly 2 decades rather than feelings of being in love. My self-confidence is low and my wife is out of my league, but still, I don't think that's enough of a reason to stay. She claims she loves me and doesn't want to lose all we've built and are building toward, but to me, I just can't see how that can be true when she was so okay with running around with one of my only friends. I can't trust her. To me, her word is meaningless. I forgive her then. How long until she goes and does it again? I do think people can make mistakes and be forgiven because people are flawed, but this isn't just one slip up. And truth be told, my faith in her is so low I don't even know if there's been more instances on top of the ones I actually know about. My mental state is essentially a puddle of mud right now, and I'm sure there's probably someone reading this calling me a dumbass, and I can't even argue that, but yeah, basically, my life is a shit show and I don't know how to proceed.